and it is my honor to welcome you to our online gathering at Miami Church. Please leave us a comment so we can say hi and interact with you. Also, we would love if you could fill one of our Connect cards. This is the way that we can communicate with you and share what's happening in Miami Church and what's happening in our community. You'll find a link to those if you scroll down on YouTube or in the comments on Facebook. Also, we have a team of people who would be honored and who would love to be able to pray with you and to pray for you. If you have any prayer requests, you can put those in your Connect card. You could email us at hello@miamichurch.com. You can put it in the comments. You can also send us a direct message. One more thing, we will be sharing in communion at the end of the gathering. So please have ready either bread or crackers and some juice so you can share in that moment with us. One last thing before I pass it on, please share this on Facebook or on YouTube so that we can have more people find and follow Jesus. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Greg as we continue in our series, The Struggle is Real.
Well, good morning. I am so glad that you are with us this morning. If I don't know you, my name is Greg, and I have the awesome privilege to being the pastor here at Miami Church, and I am so glad to be with you this morning. And a couple things as we get started. Number one is I like to say this every week. We love you, and our team is here. We're here to pray for you. We're here to support you and help you any way we can. And so you can reach out to us right now, hello@miamichurch.com, direct message, comment. We have a team that is standing by right now, and we would love to pray with you, pray for you. We'd love to help you, come alongside you in any way possible. Also, just want to remind you, just stay tuned. I don't know when we will physically gather in this space here at 2150. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but I do believe it's coming, and it's coming sooner than later. And so I know that this Sunday is one Sunday closer to when we will regather. We know the church is not a building. The church is not a time on Sunday. You are the church. And so the church, in the midst of COVID, in the midst of crazy, in the midst of uncertainty, we're still about helping people find and follow Jesus. And so I'm so thrilled. I'm so excited. I've never been prouder to be part of a church than I am being part of Miami Church. And so just a big shout out to you guys. Love you guys so much. Now, I want to start this morning with a question. How many of you are on Instagram? I mean, not right now, but put it down. Put it down. Like, how many of you are on Instagram, meaning you engage Instagram? Well, I took some time this week, and I made a list of all of the positive things about Instagram. So let's throw that up on the screen now. Right? See, here's the problem with Instagram. Is when I get on Instagram, I look like, man, look at that shirt. Or look how, man, that guy is stylish. He's got it. I wish I could wear that. I can't wear that. Or I look at a picture of your family and your kids, and I think, wait, why can't my kids sit still and take a picture? There's no way we can get everybody looking at the camera smiling at the same time. Or look at your vacation, and I think, well, I've been there. I went there. It didn't look like that when I went there. Maybe I don't have the fancy camera that you have to make the picture and the filter to make it look so right. See, the problem with Instagram is that it reminds me that there's no win in comparison. See, when I compare myself to your family or your look or your vacation, there's no win in comparison. Now, we're in this conversation, we're in this message series that we're calling The Struggle is Real. And the subtitle of this is How to Say No to the Emotions that Compete for Control. In this message series, this conversation is all about the heart. It's all about your heart. It's all about my heart. And it's all about these emotions inside of us, inside of our hearts that seek for control. And we've been using the steering wheel as an illustration that there are emotions inside of you and emotions inside of me. And they're seeking for control of your heart. They're seeking for control of you. And they want to be in control and to drive your life. So how do you say no to the emotions that seek for control? Part one, we introduced this topic talking about this idea that it comes from within. And then last week in part two, we talked about the idea of guilt. We talked about guilt. And we said, hey, listen, my past will remind me. It will not define me. My past will remind me, it will not define me. Yes, you are guilty, but Jesus says you are not condemned. You are guilty, but you are not condemned because of Jesus. So my past will remind me, it will not define me. And we've been looking in this entire message series at a conversation that Jesus had, and it was an eyewitness. It was recorded by Matthew, who was an eyewitness, and he recorded this conversation that Jesus had. And in fact, I guess it's been a month or so ago now, I asked one of our own, Kiki Valdez, who's a Miami artist, local guy, part of our church, and I said, Kiki, I'm going to be teaching over the summer from Matthew chapter 15, 1 through 20. Could you create an original piece of art? Just whatever you're inspired to create, could you create that and it could just be part of our message series? And so you see here over my shoulder is this original piece of art that Kiki created. And you can see that here in the middle is the Jesus, right? And he's surrounded by these scribes, by these Pharisees. And Matthew tells us that these guys, they came from Jerusalem up to Galilee, which was a long walk back then. They came up to, because Jesus' reputation, they came up and they asked Jesus, they said, Jesus, why do your followers, your disciples, why do they not wash their hands according to the oral traditions? See, there were these hundreds of these oral traditions, these man-made human laws. And there were certain things you could eat and not eat and do and wash and do all of these things. And they asked Jesus, hey, why do your followers not wash their hands the 22 and a half seconds or whatever the rule said that you have to do? Jesus is like, no, friends, you're missing it. In fact, look how he responds. It's in Matthew 15, beginning of verse 17. He says, don't you see that everything that enters the mouth goes through the stomach and then out the body? So whatever you eat, if it's accidentally eating something or not washing your hands, whatever you eat, it goes in, you digest it, and then it comes out. He says, but here's the key. Verse 18, but the things that come out of a person's mouth, the things that come out, the things that leak out, the things that overflow, come from the heart. They originate from within, inside of you and inside of me. From the heart. And Jesus says, these are the things that come from the heart. Those are the things that make someone unclean. Or the word in Greek is defile. These are the things that defile or put at odds with people or put at odds with God. And what Jesus is saying, the big idea, he's saying it's your heart. It's my heart. It's what inside. It's not what you accidentally ate or if you followed the man-made law and washed your hands. He says, no. He says, what I'm concerned about, what my focus is your heart. He says, your heart is leaking. Your heart is showing. Your heart is overflowing. In fact, your heart is overflowing over the people around you every single day. And if you don't believe me, just ask your spouse. If you don't believe me, ask your boyfriend or girlfriend. If you don't believe me, ask your coworkers. If you don't believe me, ask your kids. See, your heart is leaking, and the people around you are experiencing the overflow of your heart every single day. And Jesus said the evil thoughts come out of a person's heart. They overflow from the heart. And he says thoughts of murder and adultery and sexual sins and stealing and false witness and telling lies about others and greed and anger and deceit and immorality and theft and arrogance and bad judgment. Jesus says those are the things that make you unclean. But eating without washing your hands does not make you unclean, does not defile you. You know, as kids, we're taught to monitor our behavior, right? When you go to school, so much of school is sit down, be quiet, right? When you go to, you're taught, monitor your behavior. It's how you get through school. It's how you work. It's how you keep your job. It's how you stay in a relationship. But we're not taught to monitor our hearts. The writer of Proverbs, Solomon, wrote this thousands of years ago. He said this. He says, above all else, guard your heart. For what? Everything you do flows from it. He says, hey, guard your heart. This is what matters. Guard your heart. Because everything you do, the behavior, flows from where? It flows from your heart. And here's the thing about guarding your hearts. We said this last week. There's really two parts to guarding the heart. The guarding of the heart involves the cleaning toxins out as well as keeping them out. There's a part of like going in and doing hard work and cleaning out the toxins that are in there. And then there's also a defense system of keeping out or keeping out new toxins. But here's what Jesus is saying. We dare not allow these destructive forces lurking within us to seize control. If we allow these toxins, these emotions, to seize control of our hearts, it will ruin our relationships. It will ruin our finances. It will ruin, ultimately, our life. And so Jesus is saying, hey, we got to go after these things. We got to own it. We got to face it. And we got to deal with it. And that's what we're trying to do in this message series, The Struggle is Real, is we're trying to do some real heart work. Now, today we're going to have a conversation that I don't want to have. And I wish there was someone else that could come up here now and I could leave. But today I want to talk about something that's so ugly and so nasty, and it's inside of you and it's inside of me. And this may be the ugliest thing in human nature, but we got to own it, we got to embrace it, we got to look at it. And so here is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about envy. You could substitute the word jealousy, but I like the word envy. Envy. This is probably the ugliest thing in human nature. And there's just no bright side to this. There's no upside. I mean, this is just ugly. Okay, now don't raise your hand, don't comment, but how many of you've seen someone, okay? Someone, maybe a figure in your city or distant, but you've seen someone fail or make a mistake. And your initial response was like, yes. It's horrible. See, this is what I hate about me. Now imagine if that is in control. Imagine if that is driving and steering your life. See, that is ugly, and that's destructive, and that will ruin you, and it will ruin relationships, and it will ruin families. Because here's what envy does. It leaves us competing with people that don't even know there's a competition. We're in a competition with people that don't even know they're in a competition. And then what it does is it makes us arrogant because we think we're winning, or it leaves us feeling discouraged or depressed because we're not. Envy, jealousy, comparison. Stop. I mean, don't you just wish it was that easy? You could just stop. But here's the thing. This is inside of you. This is inside of me. This is heart level stuff. And this isn't going away. It's not going away for you, and it's not going away for me. But it doesn't have to control you. It doesn't have to control me. It doesn't have to drive. It doesn't have to have the steering wheel of your life. See, here's what I think about envy. Envy is not a problem to solve. It's a tension to manage. Envy's not a problem to solve. It's a tension. We have to manage this. See, we are human. We are fallen. To use Bible language, we are sinners. We are separated from God, and then we are restored. But we still deal with this fallen, sinful nature, right? And so this is a tension. And I don't know about you, if we're just being honest, this tension rises within me sometimes more than I want to admit. And it seems to come out of the blue. I'll just be going about my life, and then I'll see something, and then I'll feel this envy, or I'll feel this jealousy, or like, hey, how is that happening to that guy? How is that happening to that guy? Or, look, they're not as smart as me, or they're not as me. How is that happening? And this is this endless. See, there's no finish line when it comes to envy. Here's the thing about envy, and here's why there's no finish line. There's always an Do you know what I mean? There's always an There will always be an There'll always be something that's bigger. There's always somebody that's richer. There's always someone that's skinnier or stronger or taller or prettier or smarter or happier or hipper or funnier. There's always an There will always be, no matter how much you make, no matter how in shape you get, no matter what you do, there will always be an And then it's even ugly on the negative side, on the other side, right? There's always someone heavier or someone poorer, or we could keep going there, but that gets really, really ugly really, really fast. See, here's what the conversation does. If you get real about the here's what it does, is it causes you to crash into this question. Here's the question. Who or what am I going to use as a reference point to tell me I'm okay? Who or what am I going to use as a reference point to tell me that I'm okay? See, we all use someone or something as a reference point. And this is really a problem in our digital age because it is readily available on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on all the platforms. You can readily compare yourself to something. And see, what we end up doing is we compare ourselves to people's highlight reels instead of their real life. And there's a real warning here. Okay, pay attention. If you haven't paid attention to this point, you need to pay attention because if you choose the wrong reference point, it can be deadly. If you choose the wrong reference point, it will be deadly and it will grab control of you and of your heart and it will destroy and ruin and be so destructive in your life. This can be deadly. In fact, the writer of Proverbs says it this way. He says, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. James, the brother of Jesus, and that's a whole story there for another day. James, the brother of Jesus, wrote this. James 3:16. He says, are you jealous? Are you concerned only about getting ahead? Then your life will be a mess and you will be doing all kinds of evil things. See, this is a dead end. This is a nasty, ugly thing that's inside of you and inside of me, and we got to do business. Jesus knew this. In fact, he told us a story, what was called a parable, that really gets to the heart of this issue. And the reality is that behind your envy and behind my envy is the notion that God shortchanged you. See, to compare, to be jealous is really to say, well, God, you shortchanged me, you owe me. And Jesus says it different. He tells this story in Matthew chapter 25. Again, Matthew, tax collector turned follower of Jesus, records this in Matthew chapter 25, beginning in verse 14. And he says this, Jesus is telling the story. He says again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. Now, we read this maybe like, okay, but it was powerful in the first century when Jesus is telling this because every listener is like, whoa. He's entrusting all of his wealth, all of his stuff, all of his possessions. Wow. Jesus continues, verse 15. He says, to one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1, each according to his ability, and then he went on his journey. Now, for sake of this conversation, for the sake of this topic, you and I are going to consider ourselves 2-baggers. Okay, so we're 2-baggers. We're the guy that got the 2 bags. Okay, so here we are. Here's you. Here's me with our 2 bags, and so we look over here on this side, and here's the 5-bagger, and then we're jealous, right? We have envy, and then over here we look on this side. Here's the 1-bagger. And we're relieved, like, well, thank goodness I'm not the 1-bagger. At least I have 2 bags. I'm double the 1-bagger. Think about this for a minute. How would you feel if you believed your talent, your opportunities, your smarts were given to you by God? Make a comment, right? Like if you really believe, like how would you feel if you really believed that your talent, your opportunities, your smarts were given to you by God? And so were everyone else's. Jesus continues. He says, the man who received 5 bags of gold went at once and he put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who received 1 bag went off, he dug a hole in the ground and he hid his master's money. And after a long time, the master of the servants returned and settled the accounts with them. Verse 20. It says, the man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. And the master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I've gained 5 more. His master replied, Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with few things. I'll put you in charge of many. Come and share your master's happiness. Verse 22. The man with 2 bags of gold came. Master, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold, and I've gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Now Jesus is getting to his point here, verse 24. It says, the man who received 1 bag of gold came, Master, I knew that you were a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering what you have not, where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid, and I went out and hid gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. See, here's the point Jesus is getting at. I didn't do anything with the opportunity you gave me. I didn't do anything with what you gave me. And his master replied, Jesus said in verse 26, you wicked and lazy servant. Now what's interesting here is that he didn't do anything bad. So when he says wicked and lazy, he didn't do anything bad. It's not like he went out and stole the money or didn't return the money or lost the money. He didn't do anything bad. He just didn't do anything. He didn't do anything with his opportunity. He didn't do anything with what he had. See, this gets into the whole idea of envy. This gets into the heart. This gets into a space where we have to own it and face it and fight for it. And I believe the application point is this. What you have is less important than what you do with what you have. See, what you have is less important than what you do with what you have. See, Jesus' story wasn't about, well, this guy's got 5, this guy's got 2, this guy's got 1. That didn't matter. It didn't matter who had 5 or who had 2 or who had 1. What was important is, what do you do with what you have? See, I believe that you and I, we have an opportunity. In fact, I would say it this way, and I've said it like this for years. You are a once-in-history opportunity. There's never been anyone like you. There will never, ever be anyone else like you. You are a once-in-history opportunity. There is only one you. And you were created on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose. And Jesus looks at you, and he looks at me, and he says, hey, it's less important what you have. It's more important that what you do with what you have. What you have, whether it's 1 or 2 or 5, that's less important. What's important is, what do you do with what you have? And at some point, if we get real, all of us come crashing into this idea of envy and comparison, and we realize there's just no win in comparison. If you're the 2-bagger, others have less, others have more. There's always going to be some with more. There's always going to be some with less. And so the reality is, what are you going to do with what God entrusted you? What are you going to do with your opportunity? What are you going to do with your gifts? What are you going to do with your talent? What are you going to do with your smarts? What are you going to do with what you have? See, every minute you spend comparing yourself to someone else is a minute you waste fulfilling your God-given potential. Say that again. Every minute you spend comparing yourself to someone else is a minute you spend wasting your God-given potential. And can I just drive it in a little deeper here? Every minute you spend comparing yourself to someone else is a minute you subtly accuse God of shortchanging you. Let's sit in that a minute. Every minute you spend comparing yourself to someone else is a minute you subtly, not verbally, you subtly accuse God of shortchanging you. Not so important what you have, it's important what you do with what you have. And we have to take our cue from the one who made us and loves us and redeems us. And so here's the big idea. Celebrate what God has given others and fully leverage what God has given you. How do we do that? How do we celebrate what God has given others and fully leverage what God has given me? Well, man, bless you. I'm glad you have 5. I'm glad you have 1. But how can I celebrate what God has given me? Again, I don't believe we can solve this. I believe this is ugly. I believe this lurks within all of us. But how do we do this? How do we manage this tension? I just want to just share a few practical ideas as we kind of wrap up this conversation. The first thing, the way to manage this is I don't believe that you can manage this tension apart from community. Okay, and I could go off here for a long time because this is a hot topic for me. But I believe this shows the genius of Jesus. Jesus created church. Now again, church has become so distorted over the years and even over the centuries. It's become something I don't believe that it was ever created to be. But at its core, at its pure form, the church is a group of people who are united around the mission of God and who lock arms together and do life. Right? At its core, it's not a building, it's not an hour on Sunday, it's not a worship service or a gathering. It's not, like, those are just aspects. But the real church is a group of people who commit to the mission and do life together. And see, the reality is we have to have others to do life well. You can't, this is not Lone Ranger, this is not solo. You got to have other people to really do life well. You got to have people that will speak into your life. You got to have relationships with people not like you, people different from you, people that can invest in you and speak with you. You know, Paul tells us that we rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who we do life together, and it's hard and it's messy. But the thing that redeems this, when it comes to the idea of envy and jealousy and comparison, the thing that redeems this is we need people in our lives that will do a couple of things. One, they'll hold us in check. We need people that will hold it. I need people in my life, and I'm thankful that I've got people that will hold me in check. When I start swaying, or I start comparing, or I start getting out of bounds, or I start like, whoa. You need people that will hold you in check. You also need people that will call out the best in you. See, what happens is when we compare, when we start looking over there at someone else, or looking over there at someone else, we start comparing to them and trying to be like them instead of trying to be who God created us to be. Right? And we need people that will call it out. We need people to look us in the eye and go, hey, I see in you. Let me tell you what you're good at this. You need to lean into that. That's what you're good at. See, I need people, right, that will call the best out of me. Not to be like somebody else or this person over there or that person over there. No. To call out the best in me. To call out the good. To say, Greg, do you see the opportunities that you have? Do you see how God has wired you? Do you see what you're good at? Do you see how God has given you these talents and gifts for His church and His kingdom? Do you see that? I see in you. See, we need people that will do both, that will hold us in check, but will call out the best in us. And friends, that's what happens in community. That's what happens at church. That's what happens when we lock arms together. Friend, I don't know how I could do life without people in my life, without my neighborhood team, without our church community. I don't know how I could do life. Second kind of practical way on this tension to manage is you got to limit your intake. You got to limit your intake. I mean, if there's something that's causing you to envy or to be jealous, then why do you keep going there? If it's someone else's home, well, why do you keep looking at pictures of that? If it's somebody else's wardrobe or their why do you keep looking at pictures? You're just bombarding yourself with things that are going to cause this nasty stuff just to come up. Limit your intake. Here's another one. I think a lot of this is what I call replace. See, this jealousy, this envy, this comparison, it's in all of us. And friends, it's going to come up when you least expect it. And so you got to kind of have your tool belt ready. You got to be ready to go after it. And one of the things that I have discovered is if you replace it with gratitude. If you replace it with gratitude. So every time that a comparison or envy or this thing starts to come up and you start this like, well, why does he, well, what? How can't I should do that. What? Like when that stuff starts coming up, instead of like thinking about those things, what if you replace like, wow, God, thank you so much for what I have. You know, one of the things I started doing was just taking some simple Post-it notes. And these things are readily available everywhere, right? And I just have them around in my bathroom. I have them around at the house. I have them around my office. I have them, right? And you're able to write down like, okay, these things are starting like, whoa, what am I? I'm thankful. Well, man, look at my family. Thank you, God. Look at what, oh, wow, we have this. And you're able to write these things, and then you can just post them, right? And maybe you need to post them somewhere where every day, whether it's in your closet, in your bathroom, in a car, somewhere where you post these things So that when this stuff creeps up, when this nasty, gnarly envy and jealousy and comparison, you can look back and go, you know what? Thank you, God, for the opportunity you've given me. Thank you for the talents that I have. Thank you for the purpose that I have. I want to be who you created me to be. Replace it. Replace it with gratitude. See, it's not so much what you have, it's what you do with what you have. So what are you going to do? You got one life. You got one shot. There's a beginning, there's an end, and then we're in the in-between. What are you going to do with the in-between? Don't waste it, friends. Don't waste it. Don't squander it. Don't get so busy comparing and looking at other people that you miss what's right in front of you, what's right in the mirror. You're a once-in-history opportunity. There's never been anyone like you. There'll never be anyone else like you in the past, in the future, ever again. You are a once-in-history opportunity. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? God has given you a race to run. And you'll never discover it by comparing yourself to everybody else. God's given you a race to run, and you'll never discover it, your race, by comparing it with other people. You have your own race. Run it. Run it. God, thank you so much for these men and women, God. And I know, because I know the people of Miami Church, I know much talent. I know much grit. I know much just fire and passion. God, I just know how amazing the men and women, people right now who are listening to my voice. God, yes. God, could we just be who you created us to be, God, whether it's 5 bags of gold, 2 bags of gold, 1. It doesn't matter, God. It doesn't matter what other people have, more or less. It doesn't matter. God, it matters what we do with what we have. And so, God, let's do some hard work. Let's do some hard work this summer, God. Let's get at it. This stuff is battling for control of our hearts. It's battling for control of our lives, God, and we want to do work. We want to do work, God, because we want to be who you created to be. God, you've called us. You've given us opportunity. You've given us individual opportunity. You've also given us collective opportunity, God. You've given us opportunity. And so, God, we want to seize our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So, God, we say, no, envy, you will not control me. You will not control me. And so, God, just give us the courage to face it, to name it, to own it, to do battle with it, God, because you want us to live our purpose. We're created on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. So, God, I love you. I thank you for these amazing men and women, these students who are part of this community. God, we love you, God. We thank you for Jesus. We pray this now in his name.
Good morning, everyone. We're now going to move into our time of communion. And communion is the highlight of my week. Communion is the time, the tangible time, when I get to reflect, remember, and celebrate the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. It's a time when I can hold onto a piece of bread or a cracker, a reminder of his broken body, and a cup of juice that represents his shed blood. It's a time when I come to the foot of that cross and I ask God, please forgive me. Lord, forgive me of my sins. And it's at that point when I take of the bread and I drink of the juice that grace and forgiveness washes me anew. So let's join together, grab your bread and your juice, and let's share.
Man, I'm so glad that you connected with us today online. And we started this church a couple years ago with the simple idea of trying to help people find and follow Jesus. We said early on, there's two things that we're all about. We're all about Jesus. We love Jesus. Jesus is our message. We're all about Jesus and trying to help people find and follow him. And we're all about our city. We love people. We love the people of our community. We love Miami-Dade. And so we're just trying to help people find and follow Jesus. And one of the things that I love is just having conversations with people who are exploring, who are trying to understand the idea that Jesus loves you. He gave his life for you, and he wants to be in this relationship with you. One of the things we always say around Miami Church is the first step to following Jesus is baptism. Baptism. And so we want to just tell you more about baptism. If you're interested in just having a conversation, or some of you I know, you've been holding out for a long time. The nudge has been there, the stirring within to take that step of faith, but for some reason you've not. Today's your day. So I want to ask you right now, email hello@miamichurch.com, drop us a direct message. We want to have a conversation about baptism, because we're going to be planning a baptism celebration coming up here just in a few short weeks, and we want to celebrate with you. And so go ahead and let's just start having that conversation. Also, again, want to just thank those of you who are faithfully giving to Miami Church. Again, every dollar we try to steward to help people find and follow Jesus. And I know it's been a crazy season, it's been a crazy months, and there's been so much instability in so many things, and one of those ways is financial. But I just want to know, those of you who are financially stable, just thank you for continuing to pour out your generosity on our church. And man, we are here today. We're able to do this because of your generosity. And so thank you so much. God is good. You can go to miamichurch.com, see upper right-hand corner where it says give. And man, lots of great things are continuing to happen here at our church. Also want to just remind you that a team of volunteers, they're not like here. I keep pointing like they're here. I'm looking at a camera and a wall. But there are people who are monitoring all of our channels who want to pray for you, want to pray with you. So if there's anything on your heart, any way we can come alongside of you, I'd just be honored, me and really the team, to come along and pray with you. In fact, drop some comments right now. Just seeing your name in a comment, it makes me, or it spurs me to pray for you by name, to come alongside of you and pray with you. And so that's it. Love you guys. And I'm so thankful that we could gather together today online. And we'll be continuing next week. I guess that'll be part 4 of our message series, The Struggle is Real. I love you guys. Drop me some comments now.